It's your girl Mina. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Excuse me, I'm going to be having a snack while I film this video today. Gotta stay young and beautiful to be popular on YouTube. You guys have been requesting two things a lot lately. You wanted me to have a look at Christopher Craft's article, Kiss Me With Those Red Lips, Gender and Inversion in Bram Stoker's Dracula. The link should be up here on the screen somewhere. You've also been asking me to review A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night since I tweeted that I watched it. So I figured I'd combine the both into the same video. In case anyone is new to my channel, just for context here, I'm not named after the character from Dracula. I am Mina Harker, star of the 1897 Bram Stoker novel. He was a good friend of mine. We both decided adding a little postscript was a good idea to throw people off the scent that I am very much still undead. In a future video, I'll probably talk about what happened to the crew of Light, but that's not our focus today. So, inversion. As Craft talks about in his piece, was the idea that a homosexual was someone with a spirit that didn't match up with their gender. So like a male spirit in a female body explained why women might be attracted to women. Craft draws parallels between this sort of idea and Dracula's representation of gender. So there are points of gendered inversion in Dracula, such as when the women are vamped, they gain the sexual appetites of men and the tools of penetration, so their fangs. The scene in the Count's castle where Dracula is approached by the three sisters, he then sort of takes on the feminine role where he's passively open to their penetrative advances. And so here are two examples of this sort of gendered inversion. The book plays with his ideas with the end goal of demonizing them. So both A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night's central figure is a female vampire. So this gendered inversion is even more powerful there. We have this strong female. She uses her fangs as her instruments of power as well. So one of the main points that Craft comes back to multiple times in his piece is the idea of displaced homosexuality. The idea of inversion sort of sets the scene for this because it creates spaces for homosexual acts to occur through safer heterosexual interactions. Mainly you see this through the female body like mediating these homosexual interactions. The most obvious example is Lucy's body becoming the site of the blood of all of the crew of Light. Throughout the whole of Dracula, as Craft explains, there's this real comparison between semen equaling blood. And if we take that to a logical sort of extreme, Lucy becomes a receptacle for all four men's semen pooling together in a pretty homosexual way, but when it's through the sight of a woman, you can sort of hide it under the safe heterosexual banner. They really kind of emphasize this link by consistently saying that the transfusion of blood between a man and Lucy is akin to marriage. So what does that say about the men's blood that would be sort of combining in her body? Does that mean that all the men are married as well? Next up, the father figure. Dracula has two big daddies according to Craft. Dracula is the bad daddy. He leaves women ravished, impoverished, and turns them off the path of moral goodness into these sexual degenerates. Dracula's representation as the bad dad actually really reminds me of Arashid's father Hussein in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. His addiction to heroin leaves Arash impoverished, in debt, and in danger. And I think we can really extend the metaphor of Dracula's fangs being a symbol of his thirst, with Hussein's needles being representative of his thirst and addiction, which cause these problems. So they're very much linked in those ways. Our good dad is in Helsing. He nobly protects the patriarchal values of society and encourages all of us to stay on a good and righteous moral path. I think Amirpour actually does away with this idea of a good father figure in her film. It's sort of an updated reflection of the times where the girl serves as her own good father figure, and she sort of plays that role for other women in the piece. So Craft's piece touches on the importance of good women in Dracula Lucy is obviously cast as the bad woman due to her promiscuity, her flightishness, her being a site of penetration by multiple men, all sort of leading to her needing to be exterminated. I represent the good woman in the piece. I'm a good woman because the men of the piece decide that I am. There's no innate goodness to anyone, as Kraft points to an article called The Subjection of Women by John Stuart Mills that argues the nature of women is an extremely artificial thing, which we all know. Gender norms are socially produced, they are all constructs, and that was true when they wrote Dracula, and that was true today. Amirpour's movie really plays with the idea of a good woman in a lot more nuanced ways. The girl herself is a savior to other women in Bad City. The focus really is not on whether they are good or bad women, but instead on whether the men are good or bad. So as Dracula does not pass judgment on the men within it, neither does A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night pass judgment on the women within, but it definitely passes judgment on the men. You have Hussein and Saeed, who represent bad men because of their mistreatment towards women, punished by the destructive powers of the girl. Finally, I want to talk about violent heterosexuality, which in Dracula is a way of correcting non-desirable sexual behavior, being it homosexuality or intense female sexuality. The main example of this is with Lucy's staking, where a group of men violently penetrate her to correct her sexual deviancy as perceived by them. Kraft sort of points to multiple different areas where there are examples of this corrective penetration. So there's the staking, the morphine injections, the blood transfusions. All of these are male in penetrations to the female body designed to correct seemingly bad behaviors. This attempt to control is also sort of continued in Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, though where violent heterosexuality is used in Dracula as a corrective measure, in Bad City it seems to be the status quo. All of the heterosexual relationships we see, aside from the girl and Arash, are violent, they're ugly, they're destructive. So in a gendered twist in Bad City, a female has the powers of corrective penetration. Sure, her idea of correction is being dead, but that's also what the Crew of Light thought was most important for Lucy. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I put out new videos every Wednesday. Next week I will be doing a video on how to get blood out of clothes, especially white clothes. Ladies, thanks for coming!